All right, guys, I am super excited. I have a special guest with me today, Stacy Franklin from California with Artisan Design Concepts, and she's gonna give you a beautiful recipe to recreate this exotic pour. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. All right, so the reason that we are taping it is because in this finish, we're gonna be using more product on the surface. We usually do about 3 to 4 ounces per square foot, but because this is gonna be an exotic pour, we're gonna be using probably up to 8 ounces per square foot. So taping keeps the product on the surface. Here, I'll do it. I'll grab it. Do you double tape? All right, so we're gonna be double taping. Stacy, are you the taping queen?
Yes, and I use green tape because I find, I don't see this at our Home Depot very often, but.
When we double tape like this with the white tape and then we'll come back with the blue, we usually have really, really good results with that.
I notice if I tape too good, it's hard to pull it off.
It is.
There is such a thing as doing too good of a job.
When I get to the end of my tape, to make it easier to grab, I'll fold over a piece and tape it. So when it's time to pull the tape, it's already easy to grab.
So we're gonna go ahead and mix our art coat from Stone Coat Countertops. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. We're gonna mix this for 2 minutes, and because our piece is 8 square feet, we're gonna do about 7 ounces per square foot on this, and so we're gonna go to 56 on this. So we have a 64 or 60 ounce bucket, and we're gonna mix this up. Always start with part B first, and then move on to your A.
Be awesome.
Be awesome.
First.
And some really smart lady that works here reminded me that be black lid.
If you don't do that, you will have fun the next day getting the lid off.
Mm-hmm.
So Stacy?
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you putting part B before part A?
Because you told me to.
That's a good answer.
Because of the viscosity of B is much thinner, you don't have to worry about the volume getting off based on the weight here and it sinking down to the bottom too quick. Right. So you want the thinner,
the less
viscous,
yes,
to go in first.
So when you put part B in first and then you add A is actually a more dense product. Mm-hmm. So it's going to sink to the ground or to the bottom first, and we just get a little bit better measuring accuracy, I guess.
That's right. So we're going to mix for 2 minutes. Oh, just turned your thing. Make sure it's going the right direction. There we go. All right, always hold your bucket and don't hit your sides. Okay, we're getting ready to start our pour, and we have 32 ounces of the Stone Coat Art Coat mixed up with the Alumilite dye. I have about 8 ounces or so of Just Clear mixed in with the Diamond Dust, 16 ounces of alloy metallic powder from Stone Coat mixed in, and here maybe about 2 or so ounces of the Color Obsession 007 Gold with a hint of dark bronze spray paint mixed in. We're gonna start by putting about 1 ounce per square foot on this 8 ounce surface to give it a little primer coat.
We call it a
seal coat.
I used to call it a lube coat until I was corrected by Erica from Artist Till Death. So we now call it a skim coat.
And I'm not being super precise about how much I'm pouring out here, not measuring out 8 ounces. I'm just making sure I have enough so that way, as I start to pour out this exotic pour, that the epoxy will have somewhere to move to, because epoxy only likes to go where it's been. And so we're giving it somewhere to go.
And like she said, it's not super important that you have an exact amount. You just want to kind of have something to kind of make the board easy for the epoxy to slide on.
So it's really important though, if you're gonna do this, try to push that little seal coat or primer coat to the edges of your tape. You wanna make sure you push to the edge of the tape because that's gonna help that epoxy flow over when we pull it. Now with art coat, you have a longer working time, about an hour and a half at least, sometimes longer. I know that I work at sometimes 2-3 hours, but that's when you're brave.
And it also depends on your temperature.
Weather.
Yeah. If you've got a really, really hot, humid environment, the humidity does play a factor in your open time. And a lot of times what you can do is just take your finger and you can rub your finger up along that edge, and that'll help that epoxy get up in there.
Just make sure you don't untape your really good tape
be
job.
careful for that.
So we're gonna mix up our exotic pour cups. I like to mix them in smaller buckets. I don't know about you, Rhonda, but I find that I have a lot more control over it than having to pour this big bucket out and potentially lose too much in one area and not have enough to get through.
I do. I like that. And I also like to create them a little bit different in each cup. So even though we're using the exact same colors, we may be applying it at a different amount or different layers, and it just gives one more dimension and look.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm starting as a base on white with 2 of them and gray on the alloy on the other, because that's the last thing that's going to come out. And so I'm just no rhyme to the reason, as Rhonda would say.
Do I say that?
Rhyme to the reason.
You sure do quote me a lot. I don't even know I say all that stuff.
You do it a lot.
Do I?
All right, and so with this gold, I'm literally just doing little drizzles because I don't want this to take over this design. The primary look of this is white and gray with hints of warmth. I'm reserving most of the diamond dust for the end for big, huge pockets and veins, but I like to sometimes drizzle just a little bit.
We can never have too much diamond dust, right?
I'm with you. Okay, so in between layers, I'm gonna spray some spray paint. I'm gonna do the white gloss in between. Every like maybe 2 to 3 colors, let's say. And I'll just count, now,
now
1, 2, 3.
Why do you add spray paint, Stacy?
So spray paint will interact with your mica powders or paste or dyes and create some amazing selling effects and little pops of dots that are sort of look like natural stone. And that's what we're trying to achieve, right?
Yep.
So,
and I do find out that when you do use the white and then you torch it, those little stone-like little flecks pop up. And for some reason, I only get that when I have it with the white.
Black will do it a little bit, but more with the white.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Black will create some cool lacing in there, but white does the specks. Now, have you noticed if you wait too long to torch, those white dots don't pop up?
Right, exactly.
So if you like those dots, torch sooner. And I happen to like it.
I do too. It gives that, especially when you're doing a stone look, it gives a very realistic, look.
Look, exactly. So I'm just going back in pretty much the same order as I did before. Add a little bit more of that white here. Heavier here. So I don't like to mix up my whole batch all at once, because I often will pour it and say, I want this next, I need some lightness in this little corner. And so I do little bits at a time to make sure it's what I want.
Yep.
And I can tell, I'm gonna make this a slightly darker cup than the others.
Yep. That way you have a little bit more control of where it goes. Because once you put everything in that cup and you start pouring it out,
it's done.
Your control factor is limited.
Yeah. I like to end with the white spray paint too on top of each cup.
Then when it comes out, it looks cool.
So I'm gonna start pouring these 3 cups. and see what we get.
I like to use, along with my colored spray paint, I like to actually come in with clear spray paint because the propellant in that clear also causes some really cool kind of effects. Do you find that too?
I do. So how about when we mix the next little cups, we'll grab some of that.
Okay. What's your favorite color? Mine's clear.
Yours is teal. You big liar. All right. Are you ready? Okay, so I know that Mike likes to go in circles and everyone has their own technique on how they like to do exotic pours. I like to start sort of corner to quarter and split the surface in quadrants almost.
You do you, boo.
I'll do me. Now, if I go too slow, I get a lot of zigzags. So I'm not trying to go super slow, right? And I'll reserve a little bit in that cup. So I'm gonna do another light. And then knowing how much light I have on here, I can fill in and make my next cups darker.
Yep, and this is your dark cup.
All right.
Now, guys, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but that gold is just a hint, and it is absolutely stunning.
And just wait, once we start to torch, and
Yeah.
I can add, and even that's a perfect point. So I can take a little bit of this gold, and as I'm starting to pour these cups, if I feel I need, let's say, a little pop of color. So you can see inside this cup how I just did a quick drizzle on top. So if I pour right in front, that's gonna come out first, right, for a little pop. Now I like to layer all of my cups more than one time. So let's say here, this is kind of light for my taste. So I'm gonna go right over it,
Right.
kind of bordering it, cut through some of it. I may just crisscross it.
And because everything is self-leveling, you're not going to have bumps of color. Even though we're laying color on top of color, because the epoxy is continually trying to self-level and get down to be about, well, we have more than 3 ounces per square foot, but usually it tries to level out to be about 1/8 of an inch. I'm not really worried about putting product on top of product because it will start to level out.
Exactly. So I sit here and add in more of that color, knowing that now my light is there, I'm able to add the dark. I don't like going too dark to start.
Sure.
Because it's really, really hard to lighten up that surface.
Oh, let me get some clear.
Yeah,
and then
let's do
also, do you want a darker spray paint as well? Or are you good?
Not on this one.
Okay,
I usually just stick to the white because this bronze can take over.
Well, I'm trying to find the clear spray paint. There it is.
But I'm gonna add a lot more color into these cups.
You tell me when. So we just have clear Rust-Oleum
All right,
paint. Ready?
go.
And guys, also this is a kind of a safety tip. When we're not on camera, we have mask on with the spray paint.
And a fan on.
Yeah, we have very good ventilation. Yeah. But we are not worried about our epoxy, the VOCs. Stone Coat Countertop is 0 VOCs. Very, very, very safe. But in saying that, you still want to mix in a well-ventilated area. It is a chemical. And you can develop sensitivity to epoxy. And just be aware, wear protective gear if you need to.
Absolutely. I normally wear sleeves that cover my arms when I pour, but I forgot them in California. All right, I'm gonna end just with a little of that white. And then I have a little bit more of that bronze that I may even do a little drizzle that'll sink down into there. So when it comes out, it's gonna look really cool.
Awesome. So I do have to say, Stacy.
Yes, ma'am.
You cooked for me while you're here, and you cooked an amazing meal, and you were very neat about it.
I even cleaned up. I know.
This is very neat compared to when I do an exotic
Really?
pour. Oh, girl.
Oh, I thought I'm really messy with my exotic pours.
Ask Leslie.
Oh, really? All right, so what I like to do on some of these, I like to kind of almost make them geodesque. Okay, so I will pour like that.
This is just how you mixed it, so I didn't mix them up.
That's fine.
Now explain what
geode means.
Yes, to everyone.
So a geode has kind of pieces of stone broken out. And so I like that kind of look where it looks like this came out of the side of a rock. So that's
so it's not just all linear and striated.
Right.
You start with your striations and then you start filling in.
And then I start filling in. Yeah.
And also, guys, I want you to notice we're not in any hurry to do this. Take your time. Think about where you want your colors to be. You have a ton of open time. But once you get your colors in your cup, you don't want those colors and that epoxy to set up in your cup for very long because it will start to activate and it will heat up the cup.
Absolutely. Now, some people will just kind of pour. My word this week has been willy-nilly when teaching your class. They'll just kind of pour however. I do think about where I'm pouring to a degree, but I don't overthink it. Okay, I'm not going to sit and analyze every spot, but I know that I want a balance of color. I know that there is white spray paint on the top of this, and that when I pour that out, it's going to look like certain spots. And so I need to come from the other side of the table to be able to balance that look out.
Now, when you say that it's going to create a certain look, you're talking about because your white's first, and I totally agree with this, the white paint's going to hit first, and that's where you're going to get the real detailed white, like veining almost.
Exactly. And if I don't do that evenly throughout, it's not really going to flow.
Right.
So some of this I'm going to connect. And now it's just using the last of it to fill in pockets.
To start
and usually
playing.
I would.
You want me to do this? I don't
Yeah,
want to get
go
in trouble.
for it. You're not going to get in trouble. This is your shop.
Well,
I am just a guest here.
I'm just guest today.
You're the guest?
Well, yeah, well, you're doing the video, so that makes me the guest, huh?
Oh, cool. The student becomes the master.
Yeah, so Stacy was one of our former students, her and her husband, Travis. And now they have a very, very, very successful business in
Palm Desert,
California.
We live in Indio.
Okay, I knew Indio was a part of it.
I get that.
Right.
But we live in Indio, but now, totally train of thought here. Squirrel.
That she also got from her instructor. I'm the queen of the squirrels.
Queen of the squirrels.
All right, so we have diamond dust.
We got diamond dust over here, like hanging out, wanting to get played. It's like, what about me, coach? Put me in.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in. So I'm just filling in some spots. Sometimes I'll go corner to corner, edge to edge. Because it's taped, I don't have to quite start off my board. But see, there's an empty spot right here. So I'm going to fill this in and even create my own little
design.
Geode looking design right in the center here. And what I love is the last little parts of what's in a cup.
That's when you get detailed. That's the fun part.
Little skinny lines. That's super, super fun. Is there any more in that cup? Is that empty?
We got a little bit. You can play with it. Here, I'm going to play with it.
Yeah, go ahead. Just do that. And so the goal here is really just filling in any empty spots. But I'm going to be putting in the diamond dust pockets right before I torch.
Now this is where the walk away Rhonda may play a part because, and Stacey, you're as bad as I am.
I am.
About
Absolutely.
wanting to stop.
No, and I have a real hard time with it.
Yeah.
And maybe if you want to use whatever you can scrape out for that. See how it's a little bit up there?
All right.
And then, so I have the clear. Now you can, sometimes what I'll do is I will put this down in between as I'm pouring. So that way it's a clear pocket of diamond dust. But keep in mind, whatever's underneath this is what's gonna show through. So if it's a white primered surface, that's gonna be white. I like that oftentimes, but sometimes I want it to show what I've poured on top, okay? I'll also save some of it for really thick veins after it's set up. For maybe like, I don't know, maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Usually once I pull tape, that's when I will add in some of these diamond dust. So I'm gonna follow this big line all the way across.
Okay, so I don't confuse anybody.
Yes.
you have to be really careful about leaving large volumes of epoxy in a cup for 2 hours?
Oh, it's just a little bit.
Are you, okay, so it's just a little bit. I didn't know
like
if
2
maybe,
ounces maybe.
Do you ever come back and mix some more later?
No, I want it to get
you want it really thick. Yeah, me too. So
on purpose.
Yeah. So by leaving the material in the cup at a small amount of volume, it does get really thick and stringy, and you have more control.
Yeah. So I'm gonna leave this here.
Perfect.
Actually, one little tiny area I think I wanna add to it right here. And then I'm gonna save the rest. Now we can leave it just like this.
Or we can go to the next step. So Stacy, what's your next step? Alcohol.
Alcohol. Don't drink it, just spray it. That's a tip.
Pro tip.
So I'm going to put some in my hand. This is clear alcohol, 90, is yours 91
This
or
is
99?
91.
91%. And I am just going to bounce it around to make some larger fractures and cells in here. I feel like it, now you don't have to do this. This is an optional step. If you like the way your pour is looking and you want that real soft look, leave it alone. And a lot of this will still soften up because we're really early in the pour. But I find that's the best time to do it because I want it to soften naturally and not have a bunch of random circles.
Right. So all of these circles right here that you're seeing is being caused by the IPA landing on it. But because this is very fresh epoxy, like she says, those hard circles aren't gonna stay super defined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Stacy, it's been a little over an hour. Sometimes depending on your temperature and your environment, I leave some of my exotic pour tape on for a couple of hours. Even, I mean, I've almost done it close to 3 hours.
Ooh, you're brave.
Well, if it's a cooler environment,
Yeah.
it's gonna be it's gonna set up a lot slower. And I really like my material to be super thick when it comes over the edges. But we're at an hour, so let's pull some tape. So when I pull the tape, I pull down so that it kind of helps give that epoxy a little bit of a head start.
Got it? Pull that. We will torch the edges just a little bit and everything else just to pop any air bubbles, but we don't want to over torch the edges since that will make it even thinner. The only time I really torch the edge is if it's been a long time and it needs a little assistance. This one looks like it's flowing pretty good, but I do want to torch the top real quick.
Now, Stacy, I don't know if you're like me, but one of my favorite things to do is once we pull the tape is all these yummy drips that are hitting the table.
My favorite.
I like to put them back into the piece, which is so much fun.
I definitely do that. I have to give it a few seconds, you know, for it to start to drip. Otherwise, there's not much to pull from. But absolutely the best effects come from it. Now, this is how I do my edges. So you want to be able to keep that design, right? And so I will just pull it gently down with my finger, pushing it up and pulling it down. And that's just helping any of those bare spots start to roll over because we said, again, epoxy only goes where epoxy has been. You can take a little of that drippings from the table, just make sure your table's clean and rub underneath your surface so that epoxy will roll under and encapsulate it. My husband's favorite word.
Encapsulate.
Encapsulate. It's like his superhero voice. There's also some diamond dust fractures real fast. And then you can do your little whatever. So the last part before we take table drippings is to use that diamond dust that's been setting up. This is actually still pretty fluid. And so I would maybe even wait longer for it to set up, but I will show you what it looks like when we use it. So I'm gonna come and follow this vein or this, area with the clear and diamond dust. Just take a little on my stick and I will slowly follow some areas. And it's still gonna sink down, but it's gonna set up more on top than it would if I had done this earlier. And then I let it drip down the edge so that falls over the same pattern.
And so because, like she said, it's sitting in the cup, it's gonna be a little thicker. We're still, I guess because we have it maybe warm in here, it's still a little bit fluid, but we've come back even maybe 2 hours after it's been sitting in the cup. And it's super stringy. And then when you go lay those veins down, it's gonna stay very distinct and it's not gonna move.
I like using those table drippings as long as I can. Like I'll let it set up a good 2-3 hours because when you torch it, it creates these little dots in there and that will look so authentic and cool. So what we did is we used Stone Coat Art Coat and we mixed up majority of the epoxy using the white Alumilite dye. So 50% of our recipe is about the Alumilite dye. The rest of it is gonna have about 14 or 16 ounces of alloy metallic from Stone Coat mixed in. We have about 8 to 10 ounces of clear with diamond dust from Stone Coat, and then just about 2 to 3 ounces of Color Obsession Gold with a hint of dark bronze spray paint mixed in to create this exotic pour.
And Stacy, this is absolutely stunning. Even though most of the color that we used is white, the little bit of pop of color that you put in here really did pop. You did a fabulous job on this. This is amazing. I love it.
This is one of the ones that is asked for most often in California. And I love that I can adjust this recipe based on what my customer wants.
Where can they find you, Stacy?
You can find me online, every single place you can think of in social media. So we're on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, all at Artisan Design Concepts, or our website is www.artisandesignconcepts.com.
Think she did an okay job?
Just a little bit.
Let me know. Guys, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel by hitting the bell. That way you will know every time we post a video. Also, all of these products are available on our website, RK3Designs.com. Sign up for our newsletter, guys, because we do offer special promo codes and discounts to our newsletter followers. Also, one of the products that we're using, the gold, came from Artist Till Death. Check out their website, artisttilldeath.com, and also check out their YouTube channel. They go live every single day, so check them out. All right, guys, until next time, you know what to do. Do you know what my saying is?
Be creative and don't be scared. Something like that.
You're fired. You're fired.
Am I close?
Don't be scared. Move forward and be creative.